Phosphor Dot friends, Earl at thelogbook.com. We're back in the arcade playing Professor Pac-Man, which is a game that I have never run into in person, and it's a game that a lot of you probably have not run into in person either, because it was remarkably not popular. This was a game that Midway put out in 1983, and it was far from the first video quiz game. That is a genre that's been around since the early 80s at the very least, if not the late 70s. And it just didn't prove popular with anyone, and one party it did not prove popular with was Namco, who originated Pac-Man in Japan, had licensed it to Midway, and I'm sure at this point they were like, okay, now wait a minute, Midway. We didn't tell you you could go and do this with Pac-Man. So, this was kind of, this was one of these breaking points between Namco and Midway, and there were many, including Ms. Pac-Man, who apparently has now been banished from the Pac canon for whatever reason. After all these years of embracing Ms. Pac-Man, there was apparently a change. The rights of the original character and code changed hands, and so now Ms. Pac-Man is no longer to be found. Anything Namco produces going forward will feature Pac-Mom. So, yeah. Let's get this game going. It's not even really a trivia game, it's just a quiz show thing. Wrong answer subtracts fruit. I also subtract fruit when I get hungry. I'm going to say it's B. Obviously an extremely sophisticated game here. Cow is to milk as chicken is to egg. I am Smart Kitten. Hardly the most sophisticated game that anyone has ever come up with, and there was no compelling reason for Pac-Man to be the star of this. Hello. Miss something? Guess I did. Boy, I was almost out of time there. Okay, the Peter Gunn lobsters were kind of entertaining. Pac-Man calling for you, Mr. President. Okay. I seem to have perished. Still, I don't think I've ever made it onto the high score table of this game before. So, Professor Pac-Man wasn't exceedingly popular. Now, there are a lot of urban legends about it as far as who originated the game and whether or not they were compensated for their idea. And I'm not even going to wade into that. Now, it was developed, ironically, by Dave Nutting Associates, who had done much, much earlier work for Midway, such as Gunfight. And so it's kind of interesting that you never really severed ties there. And another thing that it's thrown around a lot, but I really have no way of verifying it, is that the reason that a lot of us probably have not seen one in person is because only 400 or so cabinets were made. And not all of those stayed Professor Pac-Man, because basically, once the game started tanking and arcade operators started making noise about it, Midway offered conversion kits that would turn them into Pac-Land. So it could be that, if you have encountered a Pac-Land coin-op in the wild, it used to be Professor Pac-Man. Now, while I say that Namco and Midway were not completely simpatico as far as what Midway was doing with the Pac-Man license and characters, it is worth noting that in the PlayStation 1 game Pac-Man World, Professor Pac-Man does make a showing. In fact, he shows up in at least one more modern title, offering the player hints and knowledge and strategies to use, because, he's Professor Pac-Man. Why wouldn't he know this stuff? So it's kind of interesting to note that Namco used to somewhat reluctantly take this stuff on board, but not so much now, especially if money has to change hands for them to use a derivative of a character that they view as belonging to them.